Last week I talked about Manjushri, his role in the Buddha Dharma, and indicating that not only is he considered to be a bodhisattva, and as a bodhisattva, a mahasattva, meaning a great bodhisattva, but he was also considered to be an Adi Buddha. An Adi Buddha, A-D-I, and then Buddha, is what's considered to be a primordial Buddha. This is important for us to understand because of Manjusri's profound wisdom comes not from learning, but from the experience and the realization of an enlightened Buddha. So the roles he plays in the sutras oftentimes makes him appear to be one that is responding to the Buddha's questions, but it is as if the Buddha is reflecting the Buddha in the responses. This is really important because when we look at things in terms of the practice, Manjushri is a reflection of the practice in the most profound sense, and is extending beyond the words themselves. He is often responsible for explaining that which cannot be explained in words. For instance, the dwelling place of Manjushri. Where does Manjushri dwell? And this is a sutra. The appearance of phenomena. What is this appearance and where does it appear? The lack of attainment of a bodhisattva. We practice and we say, well, of course we want to have some kind of an attainment or a realization, and Manjusri says, in fact, there is no attainment. Last week I talked about a sutra in which I think it was 500 monks walked out of his lecture because they were stunned at the fact that there is no attainment, and they looked around at each other, saw that they had shaven their head, took a vow of celibacy, and wearing the same clothes, and wondered, what is this all about? When we see the pictures, excuse me, the paintings and sculpture of Manjushri, oftentimes he is holding a sutra in his hand. Last week I talked about that. On the other hand, oftentimes he's holding a flaming sword. And why is the sword flaming? Because the flame represents the primordial Buddha. And then we discuss, what does the sword cut? And in fact, we found out that the sword, it cuts the Buddha. If we could cut even a concept of the Buddha, a notion of the Buddha, then there's nothing that could stand before that sword. It doesn't destroy the phenomena. This is the most subtle of Buddha Dharma. It is said in the sutras, if we cling to the ultimate or the absolute, then we lose the phenomenal. The practice of Buddha Dharma neither destroys or negates the phenomena or the ultimate or the absolute mind. It is a fusion of these two, which there's a Chan poem called Inquiry of Matching Halves, that Manjusri seeks to present to the sentient being. The key to this is the awakening of the Buddha mind. This is not easy for us to understand because we're striving to try to get to some moment of enlightenment or realization. And Manjusri says, where are you going to go? Where did you go? Where do you want this illusion to go to? So when the Buddha asks him to explain the nature of phenomena, he puts up his hands and says, how could I possibly explain the nature of phenomena? This is not easy for us to understand. It is precisely why Manjusri is presenting this material. It requires an incredible faith in mind and into the purity of the mind that we cannot know from the samsaric side. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. It's very interesting. Suppose that you're in a dream, and in the dream, do you think that the person that's in the dream, that person knows the unawakened, excuse me, that person knows the awakened person, or only knows what's in the dream? What do you think? Do you think that that person that is walking around in the dream knows the one who is actually dreaming? Does any one of you want to weigh in on this and give your opinion?
Isn't the awakened person and the person in the dream, they're the same?
Are they? Can you, if you were chased by a monster in your dream, would that monster be the same when you awaken? Why would you think that they're the same?
Because they're both part of that same mind.
Okay. Does other people agree with him?
I agree with him.
You agree with him?
Because I think that what comes to us in dreams is part of a deeper consciousness, and the images that we see, the illusions that we see, are also ways we are taught.
Anyone else want to weigh in?
So typically when I realize I'm dreaming, the person in the dream feels like a shallow shell, and the dreamer knows the person in the dream at that moment, but the person in the dream was just a character.
It's very interesting because we look at a dream and we think, okay, as Santha was saying, that person's walking around in the dream, but they cannot know the dreamer. But you see, Manjusri takes it much deeper than that. You are the dream, a dream within a dream. Then does that mean that those dreams do not exist? When Manjusri talks about awakening, he talks about awakening for not just the dreamer, but all sentient beings who are dreaming. In fact, if all is an appearance, is there any dream that or sentient being that can be awakened from a dream? Manjusri came in to the scene to to present the Mahayana doctrine of Buddha Dharma. In the phenomena, the ultimate is reflected, and in the ultimate, the phenomena is reflected. They are not two. They're not even one. It is where the one returns to. In the dream, we cannot know this. It is why I emphasize awakening versus enlightenment. The Heart Sutra says there is no attainment. It was a correction of the doctrine coming from the Theravadan school, where the goal was to achieve nirvana. Imagine that in your dream that you became enlightened. Is that truly enlightenment if you are enlightened in a dream? Or is, after awakening, this enlightenment is just a phenomenal conception that is produced by the dream? This is the message of Manjusri, reflecting the Prajnaparamita Sutra. So this is how we should look at this world, as a dream. We should not be afraid of what we in this samsaric world cannot understand. It is the faith in mind that enables us to awaken. So Manjushri brings this beautiful, wondrous doctrine of the inconceivable. I want to just talk very briefly about a sutra of Manjushri entitled The Miraculous Play of Manjushri. It's a very interesting sutra in which it starts out with this very rich banker's son that has purchased the companionship of the most beautiful of all the courtesans. And as they were traveling to the place in where they would fulfill this companionship, Manjushri appeared before them. And Manjushri had on this white robe that was glowing. Now the courtesan, when she saw Manjushri, she looked at Manjushri and then looked at the banker's son and looked at Manjushri and saw Manjushri was beyond beautiful in his glory. But in her mind, she still had the mind of desire. Not only did she want Manjushri, but she wanted his robe. Imagine seeing somebody that was so incredibly handsome in this robe that is literally as if it is made out of light. Now she's thinking as a prostitute would, as to how she could get this robe from him. Imagine if she's so beautiful, she just kind of bats her eyes and purses her lips, and any man would be glad to give her his coat. So she asks him for his robe. Just then, a god appeared in front of her, Vice Ravana, and said, spare your efforts. This is a holy one. You know, he has no interest in what you are selling. And then she said, well, how could I get a robe like this? So she still asked Manjushri, can I have it? And he said, if you develop the mind of awakening, you can have one just like this. And when she asked him, what is this mind of awakening? Manjusri answered, you yourself are awakening, and that all beings are included in this awakening. So Manjusri's teachings about how to become awakened accords with Mahayana doctrine, that the truth and the awakening are not found in some theoretical system. But we as sentient beings are compassionate in our display of this awakening, and do not discriminate against any class of sentient being in our vow to awaken them. Manjushri presents the opportunity for all sentient beings, irregardless of their class, their gender, their type, their occupation, to become awakened. This is a profound display of this esoteric realization of mind, that all is mind. This is the doctrine of Ekayana. One, in fact, doesn't abandon one world to go to another. It is the thusness that all of this is the indivisible mind. We, as dreams of mind, cannot know that, but that which produces the dream already knows that. Thus, there isn't any attainment or enlightenment. It is just mind. Now, I want to switch gears, but stay on the same topic, and you'll see how this fits together. How many of you know the Manjusri's mantra? Anyone? Evidently, a lot of people in the Asian world, they use this mantra to help them. I want to pass this test. So the mom tells her son, you need to recite to Manjushri to help you pass this test. I once knew this one Christian that was having trouble passing the mathematical part of a test to become a psychologist, a school psychologist. And she did well on the writing, just the math was so difficult for her. So she prayed to this one Christian saint, the saint of hopeless causes. And she did it quite diligently and with great faith. And it worked. It was like, you could say, almost a miracle, besides the fact that she studied a lot harder. But she studied with this faith in her heart. So the power of a mantra is very important, but we should not use it in a way which is just simply to ask for something, or to ask for things that are material in their quest. If we use the mantra to enhance our practice, this would be something worth using. The sutra is Om A Ra Pa Cha Na Di. The D is very interesting because the D at the end, DHIH, is D. It sounds like there's an echo at the end. Now, Om represents the primordial sound. And then the next 5 syllables are the first syllables in the alphabet. I think this is like the Sanskrit alphabet. Now, this mantra was presented in the large sutra of perfect wisdom. That would be the Prajnaparamita Sutra. This sutra was essentially heralding the Mahayana doctrine. So after Om, the first word is A, and this is leading towards the insight that the essence of all things are unproduced. This is very profound. I mean, when you think about it, you're saying everything is unproduced. Then where does it come from? Mind. It is not born. Ra leads to the insight that all things are pure and free of defilements. Again, pointing directly to mind by view of sunyata, emptiness. Pa leads to the insight that all dharmas, Pa leads to the insight that all dharmas have been expounded in the ultimate sense. This is quite profound, but very difficult for us to understand. It's kind of like saying, well, when are we going to get there? And the response is, you'll know when you're there. Awakening from the dream enables the mind to see mind. It is here where all phenomena are let me change that. It is here where via the self-nature of mind, all phenomena is clarified. This is the true nature of mind, or the Tathagata. It is why when it's asked, what is the primary meaning of mind? And what is the answer? Mind. It's the true nature. It is how everything comes into apparent being. It is the logical realization coming from the 12 nidanas. This is pratika samappada. Pratika samappada is causes and conditions never fail. This is mind, or we should say just mind. The next syllable is cha, and this leads to the insight that arising and ceasing of things cannot be apprehended, because in reality there's no arising or ceasing. We could say there is no birth nor death, no birth nor death of a thought, of a body, of anything. All things naturally appear in mind. Being in mind, actually, even the concept of time is irrelevant. We cannot know that because we guide our apparent lives with a clock to tell us to do this or to stop doing that and now do this. But the true nature embodies all time periods to the extent that there is no time. The one that is dreamed can never know this. The dreamer, upon awakening, this is self-evident, or I should say self-nature evident. The term na means leads to insight that although the names for things change, the nature of things behind their name cannot be gained or lost. There is no increase or decrease. All of these may be familiar to you from the Heart Sutra. So when you're reciting the mantra, you're reciting the principal elements of the Heart Sutra. Now, the last term, di, is very interesting because it's been defined as religious thought, reflection, meditation, devotion, prayer, understanding. I left out one, I'm sorry, wisdom. When we recite di, then we are reciting Anyatara Samyak Sambodhi. The mantra then reflects Om, the primordial sound, that which gives a rise to all phenomena. And the Arapachana is stating the true nature of mind, and di represents that wisdom that is awakened to. This is the unexcelled wisdom, and as it says in the Heart Sutra, which is able to relieve all sufferings. So the practice of a bodhisattva is the interest in the sufferings of all sentient beings. We should never think that we practice for ourselves, unless we practice for all sentient beings that are trapped in a dream of suffering. The term di is actually its own mantra and study, especially in the Tibetan practice, where they use it just as a recitation. And it is very deep in itself in terms of the practice and very powerful. I will close with a small sutra entitled Manjusri's Teachings. Its Sanskrit name is Manjusri Nirdesa. And in the sutra, the Buddha was going to give a lecture, and Manjusri manifested this jeweled parasol or umbrella to put over the Buddha. And here he's referred to as the youthful Manjushri, or as the New Yorkers say, a ute. That's just a joke. But in any case, this is in comparison to the elder Sariputra. Now, this jewel parasol was 10 yojanas in circumference. So you go, oh, I see. What's a yojana? It's approximately 12.5 kilometers per yojana. So 10 is around what, 1,250 kilometers. So this is interesting because it's changing our perspective as to seeing the Buddha as somebody in the same dimension as a human being. Now, the parasol itself is important because it represents one, royalty, and also for protection, and in particular here, protection from suffering. Now, with a parasol so big, it was intended to include not just Shakyamuni Buddha, but all of the retinue and all the people in attendance. And there was a god that was there and asked Manjushri a question. His name was Susima. He's one of the 1,200 sons of the supreme god Chakra. And so this god Susima's name means excellent rule. So the god Susima looked up and saw this incredible jeweled parasol there, covering the Buddha and everybody there. So Susima is looking at it and he says, Manjusri, aren't you satisfied with this wonderful gift that you gave to the Buddha? And Manjusri said to him, divine being, is the great ocean ever satisfied by having water poured into it? And Susima said, Manjusri, no, it is not. And Manjusri said to him, likewise, the wisdom of omniscience is profound, immeasurable, and boundless as the great ocean. This term omniscience means to know everything in every time period, to know there's nothing outside the knowledge of the Tathagata. Could even the Tathagata measure this profound, immeasurable, boundless wisdom? Only the Tathagata could truly perceive this question. So then he said, those bodhisattvas who wish to search for wisdom should never be content in their desires to make offerings to the Tathagata. This represents the incredible aspiration for the awakening of a bodhisattva for all sentient beings. It's like a mother hen, and she's pulling all the chicks underneath her, and maybe she could say, I'm content now, but if there's 3 other chicks roaming around, she would have an interest to bringing those in too. She would never be content with just simply the ones that are underneath her at that time. So then Susima asked Manjusri, then what purpose do you make these great offerings to the Buddha? And he said, divine being, there should be 4 purposes in mind when making offerings to the Tathagata. So what are the 4? The purpose of the mind of awakening, the purpose of liberating all sentient beings, the purpose that the lineage of the 3 jewels will continue uninterrupted, and the purpose of purifying all Buddha realms. And that's the whole sutra. I'm sorry, time prohibits me from going deeper into the meaning of it, but you get the feeling of what Manjusri is explaining. He is a bridge between the dreamers and their true nature. He is searching for those sentient beings to bring them under the parasol of the Tathagata. Okay, that will finish it for today. I'm sorry we ran out of time. Okay, so I will open it up to questions and we'll see how many we can get in. Yes, Wesley.
Thank you, Amitofo. If we wish to incorporate the mantra into our practice, how should this be done? Are there instructions as to where it should be, or as to when it should be recited in our practice, as to anything that needs to accompany it?
I don't use this mantra, but I use the recitation of the Buddha's name. And what I would say is that whenever it comes up on its own, or whenever I bring it up, is the time to use it. The more you begin to use a mantra such as this, it derives power from your inherent power that you have. So the more you bring it up, the more it will be there. You won't have to know, oh, when you have to do it, you just do it. The more you give a sincere practice to it, the more it will develop.
Thank you.
Michael.
I want to ask a question. I heard just in a retreat of 7 days, Shifu have ever mentioned. He said just in the Dizang Sutra. Okay, Dizang. He said in Dizang Sutra, the Dizang Pusa. Okay, he also have a desire. He said if the hair is until the hair is clear. Okay, no, it's clear, and he will be the final one to be the Buddha. But when the Wenshu Pusa, okay, and he and Shifu say it's a advanced concept because the Wenshu Pusa he don't consider when he will get a Buddha. So Shifu said this is a kind of advanced concept. So and there is a dialogue when Shifu make a dialogue with the Dalai Lama. Dalai Lama will also mention just maybe in a sutra. It also mentioned Dalai Lama asked Wenshu Pusa asked when you you want to be the Buddha, he said, well, how long you ask this question? So I just my key point just does that means just when Wenshu Pusa he just focus on the present time and he don't care the issue to be a Buddha. Just become a Buddha is not so important. Or do you have Gilbert? Do you have other expression on this concept? Okay, thank you.
The greatest advancement in my own practice came when I abandoned any kind of an idea of attaining anything. The sincerity of our vows is what drives us in the samsaric world. Exactly when do you think that Manjusri or Disampusa will attain complete enlightenment? It's already happened. We cannot know that. The time of the past, present, future are all held within mind. To bake a cake and keep looking at it will not make it cook any faster. We just set the timer, we prepare it in the proper way, and it will take its own time to finish. The more important thing is to present to others how to bake that cake. We really don't know how long a kalpa is. To us, that can be a long time. To a Buddha, it's a snap of a finger. As I'd mentioned in the beginning, Manjusri is also considered an Adi Buddha, so it's already something that has come to pass. But reflected in this present is the Buddha mind. I understand your question. You have to contemplate my response. Shayan, Ma.
Thank you, Gilbert. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. I actually have millions of questions, but since we were just talking about wisdom and the right view, and my question is actually all the concepts, no death, no birth, decrease, increase, I all understand. But when I in the practice, right? It's just like when I doing my meditation, when the pain is coming, there's no emptiness at all. And then I just don't know. I just kind of confused how this kind of confused mind can be. It just like it is kind of like the continuous, the last question I asked. How can I combine the exist and non-exist? And then it just like, I kind of understand the Buddha nature and the phenomenon. And then when I experience the phenomenon, and then I will totally forget about the Buddha nature. And then it just like, it's also another question is, and how can I overcome the different steps? It's just like in Chinese, we have the different stage. Is the first stage is 见山还是山. You should hear about that. And then 见山不是山. And then the stage of 见山还是山. And then in another Chinese, it's just like 高高山顶立. And how can I do the 深深海底行? Thank you, Gilbert.
Okay.
I hope you can understand my question.
I rarely talk about levels of practice, and the reason is because people get stuck on thinking that they have to reach a particular level and go to another level. These levels then become like levels of a video game. It's really the same, it's still an illusion. Shifu used to say that the Buddha is in the present moment. That means that we keep our practice at hand all the time. We never consider how long it's going to take us to practice or get to the next level. Some realizations are very sudden and they don't go through levels. It's just there. So when you think about your practice, just practice in the present moment. Don't think about any kind of an attainment whatsoever. Just practice sincerely and to the best of your ability. It will come naturally. It's so clear. It will come naturally. You just have to have faith in mind that it will happen, but don't try to conceptualize about it. Okay, Rong Chen.
I just want to confirm with you because the recent passing away of Thich Han, all his teachings echo what you have often told us. I mean, I just confirmed that becoming a Buddha or not becoming Buddha, as you said, we are not going anywhere. The Buddha, the whole Buddha story is indeed also a phenomenon. It is just a more complex, a more complete phenomenon to tell us how to actually something we call attainment. So, but it's also a phenomenon. So that's why the Manjusri Buddha is also said to kill the Buddha. That's the using the sword to kill the Buddha. So that's what I try to confirm with you.
It is in this way we, as I'd mentioned to Shayama, we just stay in the present moment. We don't have the idea of discrimination or to save this one, not save that one. Everything is just understood the way it is. And in our way of practicing in this way will enable us to practice on a deeper level, that we're not clinging to phenomena, but on the other hand, we don't negate phenomena as well. This is very, very important to understand that it is not that we let go of phenomena to get the absolute. Phenomena is part of the absolute. And when we practice in this way, our practice will reflect that. And I would scratch my head and say, what does that mean? I once had one of my students that had wrote me and told me how bad it was at work because all the workers, they just wanted to talk about sports and women. So he'd put his headphones on and listen to Shifu's lectures. So I wrote back to him and said, so much for your vows, you can't even deliver the people next to you, much less the whole world. It was better for him to be a pirate. Manjusri was this way too. He would go in all sorts of different places, even to the brothels, to preach the Dharma. To the brothels, that's where the houses of prostitution.
Okay.
I am often asked this question, and the only thing I can tell you is be patient, present right view in a way that can be understood without telling them that this is right view. Little by little, you will make a change in the group. Now, one caution to all of you, because this Dharma is very, very profound. When you try to present it to people who are not ready, it's as if you're telling them that the sky is collapsing. They may even think that this is not the proper Dharma. But nevertheless, we have to make our best effort using what's called expedient means to present the proper Dharma. Don't let them change you. You slowly change them with your insight and patience. Okay. I think that's all the question. That was a very good question, by the way. It was worth waiting for it. We will conclude. Remind me that I do have a Monday night class, which actually we're talking about right view right now. So if somebody wants to post the connection to that class, you're all welcome to come, and I generally answer questions till there's no questions. So you're invited to that. And I think that Changhua, she's going to be presenting next on the Sutra of Complete Enlightenment, which will be very, very useful. I had Manjushri's already, but we ran out of time to talk about his portion of the Sutra of Complete Enlightenment. When studying the Dharma or listening to the Dharma, there's no beginning or no end. So to get a portion of the Dharma is not bad. I wish I could have given you all of what I prepared for, but the time is not sufficient. Okay, we will finish with a transferring of merit.
那我们最后会一起做回向。
And please join your palms.
请合掌。
We sincerely wish that all sentient beings will receive the blessings from the presenter and those in attendance, that we will all work towards the removal of suffering and awakening to the Buddha mind.